welcome to a new vlog and ship video in cooperation with ReiseJung. We're taking a look at the 6th and last cruise on board of the Swiss Diamond. It's also the last cruise of the season 2025, as it is our New Year's cruise. Here on the map you can see our route today. We are starting in Hanau and we are heading to the river Moselle. Here we can see the city center of Hanau, and here you can see our beautiful Swiss Diamond. We've already seen her in a couple of videos, and this is now unfortunately our last cruise with this beautiful ship. In the afternoon all guests were on board and we left the port of Hanau. As always, we're leaving the port backwards, turning at the entrance of the port, and then we are heading in the direction of Frankfurt already during the beginning of a beautiful sunset. Here we are turning around at the entrance of the harbor, and then we are reaching the low bridges of Hanau. On most of our cruises that are starting in Hanau, we have to close the sun deck here when we are passing those bridges, but as the Swiss Diamond is one deck lower than most river cruise ships, the sun deck can remain open. We are then sailing past the castle Philippsruhe, and then we are already reaching the first lock of our cruise. As you can see, it was beautiful weather outside, a beautiful sunset, so it was already a perfect beginning of the cruise for our guests. They could enjoy the beautiful view whilst moving into their cabins and getting known to the beautiful Swiss Diamond. Here we are approaching the first lock, and here we are inside the lock, and as soon as we left the lock we could enjoy a very beautiful sunset, which was already a small highlight at the beginning of the cruise. But there's a bigger highlight coming up soon, as we're going to pass the skyline of Frankfurt, which is always one of the highlights of the first day of our cruises when they are starting in Hanau. And now I'm gonna let you enjoy the beautiful view of the skyline of Frankfurt, which you can already see in the background here, and we can see it a bit better in a second. After this beautiful moment, it was time for the first dinner, the welcome dinner. And as you already know from my earlier videos from the Swiss Diamond, the food on board is amazing, and of course also on this cruise the food was fantastic, way above the standard of a cruise ship of this class. Here we can see the Hanau hotel in which I stayed in my last video. It's not only close to the airport of Frankfurt, but also close to the river Rhine, and that means that we are now also close to the airport, and therefore we can watch some planes. Here we can see one in the background, and in a couple of seconds we can see one a bit closer. You can see the lights, and I already watched the plane from my cabin window, and after that it was time to go to sleep. And on the next morning when I woke up, we were already docked at our next destination in Braubach on the river Rhine. We can see the Marksburg castle in the background, which is our destination for today, at least for some of our guests. Some guests were heading to Bad Ems, and I joined the group to go to the Marksburg castle, taking a small bus up to the parking lot, and from there we have to walk up the stairs to the castle, and then we're gonna enjoy a guided tour around the castle. Unfortunately, it's not allowed to film in the castle, so I can only show you the beautiful view from up here down to the river Rhine and to our beautiful ship. And after a fantastic tour, it was time to head back to the Swiss Diamond. But as we still had around half an hour, we decided to head into the city center of Braubach. It's just a very small German city. There are not many restaurants, cafes or shops, but it's still worth a visit as there are a lot of half-timbered houses, and as you can see, it is looking very, very beautiful. It just takes a couple of minutes to walk through Braubach, so half an hour was enough time. Here we can see the Swiss diamond already again, docked at the river Rhine, and we can also see the Marksburg castle sitting high above the small city of Braubach. But now it's time to head back on board as we are already leaving Braubach again, heading to the river Moselle. To leave our docking location, we're now heading backwards and then we're turning around, because ships on the Rhine are always docking with a bow heading against the stream, as ships are docked more securely then, and also the propellers protected from flotsam. Here we are sailing past the castle Stolzenfels, and then we are already approaching the city of Koblenz. In Koblenz we are leaving the river Rhine and we're joining the river Moselle, which is our destination for this cruise. It's not quite common to have a river cruise on the Moselle in December, as it is a wine destination. Most of the cruises are from spring till autumn, but also in winter there are a lot of nice things you can see and do the river Moselle, and we're gonna see that in the next videos. Here we can see the so-called Deutsche Eck, which you can translate to German corner. It's the confluence of the rivers Rhine and Moselle. We can also see the cable car of Koblenz. So we are now on the river Moselle. Exactly in this moment we're joining the river, the confluence, and then it was time for lunch. Whilst we enjoyed lunch, we went through the first lock on the river Moselle, and here we are already at the end of Koblenz, going under the railway bridge of goods. And now we can enjoy the beautiful Moselle. Here we can see the so-called Terrassen Moselle, Terrace Moselle, which is the typical landscape of the lower Moselle. You can see the small city of Winningen, which is quite famous for winemaking. And then we are reaching the Moseltalbrücke, Moselle Valley Bridge. This is the third highest bridge of Germany with an impressive height of 136 meters. There are only two higher bridges in Germany. We're then sailing past Kobern-Gondorf, and there we can see the castle von der Leyen, which is pretty interesting, as in the year 1876 part of the castle and the church had to be demolished to build the Moselle railway line, and in 1971 the main road was built at the river Moselle. To build this road they had to demolish further parts of the castle, and now cars are driving directly through the castle, which you can also see here. The road is going directly through the castle, which is unique in Germany. After seeing this impressive castle, we are reaching the next lock, the lock Lehmann. There we're gonna gain an altitude of 7.5 meters, and it's always very impressive to go through those locks with a cruise ship. I really enjoy it. I still think it's interesting, even though I've seen it for sure a few hundred times. On board it was then time for another highlight. Already directly at the beginning of the cruise we had our high tea time with special cakes and other treats, and in the meantime we were sailing past Alken with the castle to Rand. We visited Alken on our cruise on the river Moselle with the Swiss diamond in summer. Then we sailed past Reiskaden, and here we are in Cochem, our destination for the evening. We can see the Reichsburg castle, beautifully illuminated in red high above Cochem. But before heading out into the city center, it was time for yet another fantastic dinner on board. Of course, also today the food was amazing. In the evening, a few of our guests were joining the night watch on his tour through Cochem, whilst we went into the city center without an excursion. To get to the city center we have to cross the river Moselle and from the Skagerrak bridge you have a fantastic view, the most beautiful view of Cochem. We can see the city center and the castle in the background. Even though it's December and many shops and restaurants are closed, as it's not the main season of course here on the River Moselle, the city center of Cochem is still worth a visit, as you can see a lot of beautiful half-timbered houses, and of course there are quite a few bars and restaurants that are open also in December. We decided to go to Murphy's, a pub close to the railway station, had a nice evening there. Before heading back to the ship, there was no need to rush because we stayed overnight here in Cochem. Here we are back on board, and that's it for this video. In the next video we will see the next days. Here you can see when this video will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, I'd like to say thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe or share the video link, and maybe one day I'll see you on one of our ReiseJung cruises, and in the video description you can find a link to our website.